Well, welcome back. Wannabe Rocker here with some more astrophotography related stuff. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is show you how I pick targets. Um, I'm going to go to this program called CCD Nav 3 or CCD Navigator 3. And in CCD Navigator 3 are these thumbnails uh, for the candidates available, and my list of favorites that I've picked that I've want to image, that I have goals set for. You determine your goals in the camera window here. 900 second RGB, 600 second L, um, 1800 second narrowband. Some other stuff, my field of view, guiding type, um, overhead with download time, and periodic focusing, and stuff is calculated out. So what I'll do is I look at my profile here, and this is my camera, my telescope, my mount, and the location. So I pretty much know a good idea of what rig I'm talking about. So I guess if I wanted to continue imaging M51, I would just scroll over to M51. You can preview what your actual framing will look like with your actual field of view. The numbers are calculated out along with your position angle, which apparently looks like 353.6. And I have a little graph here of the positioning of it throughout the night. Starts about I don't know, 50 degrees maybe, and comes up to 86.8. I have 0% obstructions. Moon is never visible. 132 degrees from M51 if the moon was out, is out at 132 degrees away. LRGB okay, narrowband okay. Dark time end, sunrise. So dark starts at 21:44 tonight and continues to 4:42, giving me a total of 6 hours, 58 minutes of darkness. The sun sets at 19:56, and then it turns nighttime at 21:44, and that's when the session will actually start, and it will go until dark ends. And it will image in the staircase fashion. So I'll add that to my session. It'll reuse my selected guide position, and looks like 3 reds, 5 greens, 8 blues, and 11 luminants will be imaged in a staircase fashion. I could also add another target. I'm going to add one that transits later. For that one, for instance, about the same time. I can page through all the way to the end here. Here are ones that are transiting quite late, versus ones at the beginning that are already transited. I'd be imaging in the western sky with this one most of the time. If I wanted to see what that looks like, I could just look at it here, and and if I think that looks pretty interesting, I'd like to image that, I would just click add to favorites, and the SkyX will open, and this choosing guide stars box will appear. I'll click on the SkyX so I have this box and what I'm looking at here. I see there's Bose Nebula right there. But here's the one that I chose, and here is our guide star and my framing, and this is what it will look like at that position angle. And you know, it's got a couple of cool looking stars in there, and I mean, probably don't have to worry about pulling detail out in that, so be a fairly easy one, I'd imagine. So why not? That looks good. I'll click done, and now I'm going to choose my goals, and total hours here. Well, I want to grab, I don't know, maybe 20 luminance and 15 of the others, and that'll give us a total of 14 hours on it. I don't know, maybe I should double that and do 30 hours, but I can always do that. I will click OK. And now it should be loaded in my favorites, which I believe that was no, it wasn't that one. This one, sorry. It's loaded into my favorites, and now it becomes a choice I can pick. So if I want to take advantage of my west skies, mostly because they're darker, I could add something that's already going to be in the west sky when the session starts. And I'll just click Add to Session. It'll use my easy guide position. And now I have this target to be imaged first. As you can see here, it's going to image 2 red, 2 green, 2 blue, and 8 luminance in a staircase fashion, meaning that as the altitude increases, it'll image red and green at lower altitudes and image blue and luminance while it's nearing the meridian. Less blue light extinction occurs there, and the skies are just, the atmosphere is just a little bit better. We can use everything we get. And then M51 has now been changed to 1 red, 3 green, 6 blue, 3 luminance. There's also a thing called enable frame balancing. So the next time I run a session, it will account for those frames being balanced. Although to be fair, I'm not giving it much time in the red zone at the lower altitude, which would be near the end of its travel here as I approach the tree line. So I'll just kind of experiment with it and see what is the most optimal way for me to collect data, but I try to keep it in the west side of the meridian. So my sessions look a lot like this, where they transit right here. This black dot means it transits. That's when it will transit, and then we continue on to the west, because after things transit, they're in the west side. So now I have my session plan here, and I am just going to export this to my Dropbox folder that CCD Autopilot looks into. So I'm gonna, I have to clear out the target, and now I'm just gonna throw together a quick session for my Takahashi. So I'm going to load the profile for my Takahashi, and there it is, the STT camera, the Takahashi, the Paramount Mighty at RKO. So we've got a bunch of stuff that's starting to show up here. This is all transit early. I can also order them by which one it'll image first, or the longest available time. I kind of like to do pick by transit, because I know anything here will be at the beginning of the transit, or I mean will be transited at the beginning of the night. So if I wanted to continue, also too, um, if I turn transit on during darkness, these targets, most of them will disappear. But we do have some stuff coming in. I guess the reasoning for unchecking transit in darkness is targets will show up that are long transited, during the light time and daytime, and now they're finishing, they're about to set, but you can grab, a couple hours of it. This one's available for an hour and 25 minutes. I could get an hour and 25 minutes worth of H alpha data, or at least an hour for the next few nights. So that's kind of like why I do that. This one, I mean, you might as well, you wait until later this year for that one. About 8 months from now. Same thing with Cohen's about to set, so it'll only show nighttime transiting targets in your favorites section here. And as the year progresses, more will appear. So anyway, I have a framing set up for Markarian's chain, and that is also how it's going to look, the way I have it framed, so I'm happy with that. I can add that to the session, and as you can see, it's set up for 17 luminance, 4 red, 4 green, and 4 blue. My sessions are, I can't check unless I get, these are, once again, 900 second RGB, 600 second luminance, 1800 narrowband. I just keep it all consistent. So once again, Markarian's chain, and I will add that to the session, or Markarian's chain, however you say it. This one is quite low, but I can get it for 2 hours and 4 minutes. But I've been working on M106, as you can see by the green progress bar, so we'll just throw M106 in there too, and we'll go with that a little bit longer. So M106 will be imaged after it transits. I can adjust things if I want to maybe start doing things a little differently. You get the idea. And let's say I have those two targets. I mean, this one's going to be imaged more in the east sky, but I don't know. I guess I'm just going to have to live with it and see, or wait till later in the year when it's when the blue line is longer on this side, meaning that it's more time setting in the west sky than rising in the east. Anyway, sorry I'm babbling on most of the time here about things, but once I'm happy with my session plan, I will just once again click export. This exports to a Dropbox folder that my Takahashi rig with CCD Autopilot 5 looks into. So this program is called CCD Navigator 3, and I highly recommend it. I mean, Sequence Generator Pro I haven't really used, but I know that can do automated target selection and all that stuff too. I just happen to go this route, and I think it's pretty neat. So there you are. That's kind of how I select targets. Usually it's a 2 or 3 minute long process, but I decided to just kind of talk about some things or ramble on. Ooh, that one looks cool. I can't wait to get that one. What are we looking at? See if it loads. There it is. And that'll give you a rough idea. You can click to invert it. It'd be fairly small in the field of view, but I kind of like the wider field of view. Although this would probably be a target for dark skies. So anyway, thanks for being bored enough to watch, I guess. So you guys have a good night and clear skies.